On
Okay, 1903. Any further check-ins? ZS6OP is still standing by. Okay, 1904. Second last call for check-ins. ZS6OP is standing by. Okay, Pia, just unmute and let's do a quick test and then I'll carry on, yeah?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, good stuff. There we go. Right, 1905. Last call for check-ins. ZS6OPS, and then I'm going to start. Okay, nothing else heard. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining in on the net this week. Just to say greetings to one and all, and welcome to the weekly net. Of course, this is me, Chad, your host for the evening, ZS6OPS, and I'd like to remind everybody that this net runs every Sunday evening at 1900. It's presented on both Zoom and of course, on amateur radio frequencies if the guys decide to ever share them out. However, it is also carried out on the West Rand repeater as well, or at least on the Roodepoort repeater, to be more accurate, as it covers the Roodepoort area. I'd also like to remind everyone that everyone is welcome to join in and participate via either of these platforms. The radio amateurs who have not checked in, guys, please bear in mind you do not need to be a member of any group, any body, any entity, or even any club to use the repeater. You only need to have a paid up ICASA license fee, and that will entitle the use of all the radio amateur bands without you having to acquire any further permission from anybody else. So for the new guys in particular, and for the older chaps, if you are being told anything to the contrary, perhaps you should consult the regulations yourself, and you will see that in actual fact, that's not a valid statement to be made. Okay, and by opening this net up on a Sunday evening on Zoom, of course, now we have extended it to all members of the public and any other interested party that is more than welcome to join in. So if you do want to share a link with the Zoom link with any of your mates, buddies, friends or family, please just contact me if you are not on my contact list or in one of my groups. Just pop me a message on WhatsApp. I'll give the cell phone number in a few minutes. And of course, you can ask your friends, buddies, mates, family, colleagues, or otherwise just to contact me, and I will share the link with them with the greatest of pleasure. And they are more than welcome to join in. Okay, and as I say, it is open to all members of the public, and of course that will be throughout South Africa, not just out on the West Rand or surrounding areas, but everybody can in actual fact participate. Right, moving on, a couple of things that I want to cover, the normal weekly information regarding COVID and monkeypox, and then definitely for the benefit of all the radio amateurs that are always looking for reason and excuse to complain and moan and groan and do all kinds of other good things. Please make a plan now, get your recording devices out, because I can assure you the conversation regarding the Baofeng UV5R is most definitely going to be one of the major controversial statements. And I know that you guys are just dying to get my comments on record, which I welcome. At least that way, I know for the fact that you can always go back and play it back, and while you do your research, you will discover that again, there is no fake news in my reporting, if I can put it to you in those terms. So all things being said, let's move on with the global figures for COVID-19. Let me clear the timer. And of course, ZS6 old Papa Smurf is in the process of being old pot stirrer. Okay, globally, the figures for COVID-19, ZS6 OPS returning this week. Quite an interesting week yet again. Our global figures are sitting at 614,873,104 new cases compared to the 611 million from last week. This, again, is still looking at 3.1 million in new cases. We don't seem to be having any major increase or decrease. The last couple of weeks, our average trend has been 3.1 million. Might be 10, 20,000 either way, but nothing to write home about, as they would have said if you were in Vietnam in the earlier years of our global world. Okay, then let's have a look at what actually happened. Is the number of new cases in this last week was actually 200,000 less than the new cases in the previous week. So there was a slight decline, not much, however. I also need to just remind everybody that several of the countries have in actual fact changed their reporting methods, South Africa included, and this could be skewing the figures slightly. The death toll globally is now standing at 6,536,640 compared to last week's figures of 6.5 million, and this equates to an increase of 10,000 deaths globally. Again, not much of a significant increase or decrease either way. South Africa, on the other hand, we did see an increase in the number of cases now that we are reporting once a week. So for the week ending week 21, 21 September, I think it works out to week 37 or week 38. There's a bit of confusion between the NICD and the SA coronavirus website. However, this week we saw a total of 1,558 new cases with a total of 23 deaths. Compared to last week's 1,400 new cases and 17 deaths was really only 134 new cases over and above the previous week, and an increase of 6 deaths. So again, not much of a shift in statistics for the last week. Monkeypox, on the other hand, still globally looking at 64,881 cases compared to the 62,000 of the previous week. That was only an increase of 2,630 cases. ZS6 OPS returning. We still don't have any other dashboard that is providing any additional information with monkeypox. And I think that basically because of the fact that the numbers are not high, they're probably not spending the time and effort, etc., in actually, putting together any specific sort of reports or dashboards or anything along those lines, which may warrant us having to keep a rather accurate and distinct tracking of what is going on with the monkeypox. I think if that were to change as time goes by, then we might see a new dashboard returning, or at least being made available for us. Okay, ZS6 OPS returning. I did say that I would in actual fact give my cell phone number for those who would like to join in. More than welcome to do so. Please take down the number, and just before I give it to you again, guys, I think hit your record button, because we're going to be moving on to the Baofeng letters in 30 seconds. So that cell phone number is figures or numbers 082-859-2684. That is 082-859-2684. And of course, anybody can, in actual fact, make contact with me and we will share the information. That being said, for the benefit of the Zoom operators, I am in the process of sharing the screen because I just want to bring up the original letter, which was, or at least one of the letters issued by ICASA at the beginning of 2022, more specifically dated the 23rd of February, headed the Baofeng two-way radio operators. The letter read as follows. It has been brought to the authorities' attention that many radio users, especially community police forums, CPF members, have purchased and are currently using such programmable Baofeng radios on their radio networks. These radios, in particular the Baofeng UV5R, may be ICASA type approved but are deemed illegal to use or have in your possession due to the following. In terms of the radio frequency spectrum regulations of 2015, section 35, which states that no person must use or have in his or her possession any radio receiving apparatus which is capable of continuous tuning and can be tuned to bands above 30 megahertz, except for the international broadcasting and radio amateur bands, and that licensee is part of a recognized responsible disaster relief organization and or authorized agency that the authorities' prior approval was obtained. Any person who contravenes these regulations is liable to a fine not exceeding 200,000 rand. The radio does not comply to certain technical parameters and is in the process of having the type approval revoked. And that was the end of that document. Of course, the undersigned was one of the spectrum compliance and enforcement officers at the Independent Communications Authority of South Africa. Okay, ZS6 OPS returning. Now, a document started circulating during the course of the weekend. I believe I got it this morning, and it is an official notification issued by by ICASA. There is no notice number on it. However, it is a general notice. And for the benefit of those that are listening that haven't been able to see it, view it, read it, let me read the contents. So I quote paragraph 1. The Independent Communications Authority of South Africa, the authority, hereby gives notice to prohibit the usage and sale of the Baofeng model number UV5R, the radio, with type approval certificate number TA2018-870 in the Republic of South Africa until such time as the authority makes a determination on the compliance status of the radio. Paragraph 2. This notice is issued in terms of sections 4.3d, F, G, L and M of the Independent Communications Authority of South Africa Act 2000, Act number 13 of 2000, as amended. That's the ICASA Act. Read with Regulation 13 of the Type Approval Regulations of 2013, the Type Approval Regulations, published in Government Gazette number 36785, dated 26 August 2013, and Section 31, 1, 2, and 32, 1A of the Electronic Communications Act 2005, Act number 36 of 2005, as amended. Paragraph 3. A complaint was received by the authority regarding the radio, which is alleged to have continuous tuning capabilities and to be causing radio frequency interference. Paragraph 4. The authority conducted preliminary investigations that confirmed that the radio has continuous tuning capabilities. Paragraph 5. Radio devices operated in specific radio frequency bands wherein they are allocated frequency channel or slots. Let me clear the timeout time, and I'm going to come back and read that paragraph again. Okay, ZS6OPS returning. So paragraph 5 reads, radio devices operate in specific radio frequency bands wherein they are allocated frequency channels or slots. Radio frequency bands are shared amongst various devices which occupy different channels within a given radio frequency band. Measures such as channel spacing and guard bands are used to mitigate against interference and unintended transmissions. Paragraph 6. Continuous tuning enables a radio device to scan and tune into all the channels of a given frequency band, including those that the device is not licensed to occupy, which is in contravention of Regulation 35 of the Radio Frequency Spectrum Regulations of 2015, known as the regulations, and published in a Government Gazette number 38641, dated the 30th of March 2015. Paragraph 7. The process to operate a two-way radio requires one to obtain a spectrum license in order to be allocated a specific operating frequency. Thereafter, the operator must get a type-approved two-way radio to be programmed by an accredited radio dealer to their allocated frequency. Paragraph 8. This means that an operator is only allowed to tune their two-way radio to their allocated frequency. The operator is not allowed to scan through all the frequencies in respect of which the two-way radio is type approved. They must only tune to their allocated frequency. In light of the above, all parties, paragraph 9, all parties, type approval certificate holders, licensees, or radio dealers are hereby instructed to seal and or remove the radio with immediate effect and to notify the authority within 14 working days from the date of publication of this notice in the Government Gazette. Paragraph 10, all written notifications, responses, and other correspondence in terms of this notice must be directed to Mr. Bethuel Gadimi, Licensing Division, I hope I said it correctly, at Block B, 350, Witch Hazel Avenue, Echo Point, Office Park, Echo Park, Centurion, or Private Bag X10, Highveld Park, 0169, or by email to BK Correction. Let me give it to you again after the timer. Okay, ZS6OPS returning with the email address. I'll give it in phonetics. Bravo, November, Kilo, Golf, Alpha, Delta, India, Mike Echo, at ecasa.org.za. So I'll give it again. Bravo, November, Kilo, Golf, Alpha, Delta, India, Mike Echo, at ecasa.org.za. And that is basically signed by Dr. Charles Lewis, the acting chairperson, and this is dated the 20th of September 2022. Now, in full disclosure, I must admit that even though this document is 5 days old from a signature by the acting chairperson, to date, I do not see where it has been gazetted. It may well have been done so already. However, I think the government printer might be a bit behind on the website. I don't see anything having been published as yet. But I can assure you, seen as this document has already been signed, it has been probably submitted to the government printer and will appear as a gazetted document in due course. Okay, ZS6OPS returning. So, that being said, it's quite amazing to actually, let's unpack this document a little bit, to see that ICASA is actually giving notice to prohibit the usage and sale of the UV5R Baofeng. One of the questions I do personally have, it does stipulate with type approval certificate number, and it specifies the TA number. And as we know, that only some of the radios that are in circulation actually do have the TA number. And then for those of you that are aware of how the type approval regulations were written, type approved equipment had to, in actual fact, have the TA number attached or affixed to the radio, and also to the physical cardboard packaging of the radio, and it had to comply with certain specifications, and such TA certificates had to be obtained from ECRN directly at a cost, and in certain circumstances may have digitally been assigned, or at least had a type approval certification digitally applied to the radio. Outside of that, all radios without a TA are therefore not considered type approved under the now repealed, and please take note, I do say now repealed, type approval regulations. Okay, ZS6OPS returning, and yep, I can just listen to you guys out there. The type approval regulations haven't been repealed, and of course, Chad doesn't know what he's talking about. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to just draw to your attention, despite the fact that I know that in July, the SAL did in actual fact stipulate that they were a little bit upset that ECRN had not in actual fact gazetted the type approval regulations, or the replacement of the type approval regulations. However, I did in actual fact discover that Government Gazette number 46146 dated 31 March 2022, literally 3 months before the SAL stated that this document hadn't been gazetted, was in actual fact gazetted, and has in actual fact been signed in by the chairperson on the 28th of March 2022, and the new equipment authorization regulations are in effect. And as such, I'd just like to read a regulation, if I can find it quickly. Let's see, where is it? It's down here at the bottom somewhere, where the actual type approval regulations were in actual fact repealed. Oh yes, repealed regulations. Regulation 26 of the equipment authorization. The enactment of these regulations repeals the following in their entirety: type approval regulations of 2013 and the labeling regulations of 2013. Now I can just hear you radio amateurs out there saying, yeah, but now the Baofeng letter stipulates the type approval regulations. Yes, it does. Because one of the arguments that was submitted by myself and various other interested parties during the submission of the equipment authorization process was that the way the original document was drafted would have meant that all equipment that was previously approved under the old type approval regulations would have to go through the process again. And ECRN took the argument into consideration and have actually stated within the equipment authorization that all previously approved equipment would retain its type approval status as was originally issued. ZS6OPS returning, and it is for this reason that the current prohibition on the usage of and sale of the Baofeng UV5R under that TA 2018, I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, TA 2018/870 is now prohibited, and of course you may not use it, and you definitely may not sell it. Much to the dislike of many radio amateurs who I know for a fact were selling it to their buddies, next door neighbors, CPFs, neighborhood watchers, and all the other good parties. So guys, please take note of what is actually happening here. This radio in particular, where ECRN has responded to a complaint that was made available to the general public, has gone through a process resulting in this general notice being issued. Now, I don't know if there are any of the older, and I'm talking about longer standing radio amateurs. If any of you are aware of any other general notices where radio equipment has in actual fact been prohibited in this manner, maybe you can enlighten me on it if you do have any knowledge of previous cases where the authority, whether it was under the old Post and Telecommunications or under the ECRN authority as we now know it today, if there is any other precedent whereby radio equipment has in actual fact been prohibited in this nature. Now, this document, I must admit, does leave many questions open. And that is, what about the UV5R that doesn't have a TA sticker or type approval to it? You know, guys, seriously speaking, if you look at the old type approval regulations and the new equipment authorization, well, those radios were not allowed to be sold or used in any event. So I don't think that the argument of, well, it doesn't have a TA is going to suffice in terms of being allowed to use it. Personally speaking, I think that radio was illegal then and still is today. Again, now watch, I can just see you radio amateurs out there saying, yes, but radio amateur equipment is exempt. Ladies and gentlemen, I think perhaps you need to go and reread the type approval regulations which have now been repealed. ZS6OPS returning, and most definitely read the regulations regarding the new equipment authorization regulations, where it specifically says that there is some radio amateur equipment that is exempt, i.e. your homebrew equipment. So if you build the radio, you don't need to type approve it. But if you try and sell it and it becomes a commercial product, guess what? You need to go through the type approval process or equipment authorization process as it is now known. One of the good things about the equipment authorization is the authority has taken a note of many of the submissions by various stakeholders, parties, companies, businesses, radio amateurs, and the like, and have in actual fact implemented a quicker, a cheaper, and an easier way of having equipment approved. Under the old type approval, every radio apparatus that was imported into the country had to go through a very stringent type approval testing, spurious testings, this testing, that testing, all the others. Quite extensive documentation became a costly affair, and this is one of the reasons why there's a lot of equipment that is not available in the country today, especially with our rand-dollar exchange rate. However, the new equipment authorization, I'm not going to go into this in detail. We will do it as a subject on another evening, and we will unpack the equipment authorization in a lot more detail. The new equipment authorization now allows for equipment that is approved by other authorities or testing laboratories. So let's say, for example, a piece of radio equipment or radio apparatus, for the correct terminology, is in actual fact being approved by the FCC within the commercial market. Then in South Africa, it doesn't have to go through the full testing aspect, but the FCC approval documentation has to be submitted. It must be added to the equipment authorization register, which has got its own unique name. And of course, the authority will then give an EA number certification that, again, the radio will have to be labeled, the boxing will have to be labeled, etc. So there are some major advantages. But be rest assured, radio amateurs, don't think that your radio equipment is equipment exempt. I'm serious. Until such time, ZS6OPS returning. For all you diehards out there, I want to say this to you. Until such time as ICASA categorically states that all amateur radio equipment is exempt, that's not what the equipment authorization says at the moment. All commercially available equipment has to go through the process on level 1, 2, or 3. There's 3 different levels. So don't think that it's just going to happen that you can import and you can do whatever you like and you can, buy these radios and sell these radios. Guys, I think that with the way things have gone the last couple of months, well, I think radio amateurs need to catch a wake up and start realizing that there are a lot of people out there that have got, in particular, Baofeng UV5Rs that are coming up on radio amateur bands, simplex and repeaters, and are calling their buddies and using it for other purposes other than, well, definitely without amateur radio licenses to start off with, or any other commercial license. And radio amateurs need to protect their bands. Doesn't make a difference what organization, what body, what entity, whatever. It's time the radio amateurs started to catch a wake up. Guys, I'm telling you now, there's a lot of you out there that have been selling these radios illegally. And it's time that it stops. Even today, after sending out this document, I have come under severe fire from how many radio amateurs? And they're all blaming ICASA. Guys, it's not ICASA's fault. The fact that these radios are coming in through the ports and through everything else, not ICASA's fault. It is the population. ZS6 OPS returning that has generated this market and has allowed unscrupulous people that are dealing in equipment that should never be dealing in equipment. And I said people, but I want to be quite clear from my perspective. That goes for businesses, small businesses, legal businesses. By legal, I mean sub-C registered businesses and radio amateurs alike. And then every Tom, Dick, and Harry who's looking to make a quick buck. Guys, the UV5R is off the market. What it means for you as a radio amateur that has got a UV5R in your possession is a very, very good question. Because at the end of the day, part of the complaint is regarding the spurious emissions. And that in itself would not be allowed in commercially available amateur radio equipment. And I think it's time. The South African Radio League does not represent every amateur radio operator in the country. And I think every radio amateur in the country needs to now stand up and ask the question quite seriously. What does that actually mean for me as a radio amateur that has got one of these radios in my possession? It's not homebrew equipment. It is something that has been purchased through whatever means, shared, swapped, donated, given, or otherwise. Quite simply, the radio frequency spectrum regulations stipulate that no person may be in possession of. And that is equipment capable of continuous tuning above 30 megs and equipment that is not type approved. And even though radio amateurs are sitting there saying, yeah, but I'm a radio amateur, I'm allowed to have it. Guys, I seriously don't think we are allowed to have it. And we need to have a good look at ourselves as radio amateurs, number one. And then as radio amateurs, number two, we need to sit back and have a good look at how we have in actual fact been promoting, sharing, and distributing this product and the impact that it has. And then ask ourselves, what are we going to do moving forward? And I want to be quite clear and quite categorical on this. As myself, Chad Milam, ZS6 OPS, an individual. ZS6 OPS returning. I'm not here to play policeman. Because if I'm going to play policeman, I can tell you it's going to be a very long letter to ICASA. And many of your names will be in that letter. That's not what I'm here for. But if amateur radio is to be self-policed, then that's exactly it. Self-policing does not, as far as I'm concerned, state that I should report any of you or any of you should report me. Self means me, myself. I need to police myself, not be policed by others. And I think it's time that we as radio amateurs, when it comes to this particular aspect, and yes, the likes of Rory and myself and a couple of others have for years been stipulating that the Baofeng UV5R is great for this and that fire and, you know, all this kind of block, and for certain captains to make use of, and all the rest of it, and I'm getting dirty looks as per the norm without even knowing who's looking at me. We've had a lot to say about it. Sorry guys, it wasn't Rory that complained. It also wasn't me that complained. If I check my shoulders are broad enough, you can blame me, it's fine. I've had plenty to say about the Baofengs, yes. But we need to police ourselves. That's what the point that I would like to make with regards to tonight's topic regarding, this is a prohibition. This is a very strongly worded document where the authority is giving notice to all parties. That's you, that's me, and every other person that is, has, could, and may be acquiring the Baofeng UV5R. This notice is to prohibit the usage and sale. It's time for us to self-police, people. That is the key message. And on that happy note, I wonder if there's anybody that would like to add their name to the bottom of my check-in list, because then after that, I'm going to open up for any discussion. And if there is no further discussion, queries, comments, otherwise, I hope the rest of you got a good recording, and I hope that, well, I just hope that you do something decent with the recordings. Right, any other check-ins? ZS6 Oscar Papa Sierra standing by with one massive fat smile on my dial. Okay, so nobody wants to join in there. Guys, really? Are you that scared of me? Seriously, please add yourself to the bottom of the list and come and join in the party. All right, I know Adrian and Pierre are out there on 2 meters, and of course George is there on and Fani are there on Zoom. So I'm just going to ask the question on air. If you guys have got anything that you do want to add, give me a thumbs up, unmute yourself, say something, just so that I know it is you. Otherwise, I'm going to close the net down. ZS6OPS standing by. Okay, Audrey or nothing. George, Pierre, and Fani, anything from your side?
Nothing from my side.
Okay, nothing from Fani, nothing from Adrian, and of course George was floating around, and Pierre never responded either. Pierre, just give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down if there's anything. George, have you got something you want to add? If you want to add something, give me a thumbs up, otherwise a thumbs down. Okay, so nobody's got anything else to add. Okay, guys, there we go. Please take note of the prohibition on the usage and the sale of the Baofeng UV5R. This could land you in a fair bit of trouble once this is gazetted. I firmly believe it will be gazetted during the course of this week. I think once I've seen the actual gazette, I will share it and make it public knowledge as well, so that everybody is aware of the fact that this is now written into law. Per se, and it's not just hearsay and everything else. And I can tell you that it is an official document that there is a given, that's already been confirmed. As COVID is not over globally, again, please, if you are going to visit people, especially the elderly, friends or family, wear a mask to protect them, not you. Sanitize your hands on a regular basis, and physically distance yourself when in public. And for the week ahead, of course, be safe, be prepared, and be happy. This is ZS6 IPS release in 145.625 for general use. Cheers all. Okay, you guys can unmute. I'm going to stop the share and I'm going to stop the recording.